All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Late Afternoon Show. It's your boy Tim. We're gonna let that beat drop in 3, 2, 1. Hey, on the same frequency. Hey. I've got to make you mine. Guys, I am so excited about today's Late Afternoon Show. We got one of my aspirational mentors, somebody that I look up to, Mr. Zack, Dr. Zack, my bad, let's go. Now, today's episode is recorded, but we will see the chat. We will see the live chat. So let us know where you're joining us from. Are you in America? Are you in the Great Britain? Australia? Are you coming from Africa? Let us know. And then we'll go and we'll flow. Start the show with good vibrations. Hey, let's go. I can't believe we're on season 5 of the Late Afternoon Show. Woo! I've got to make you mine. Please tag your people at them and bring them to the show today. Shoot them a message, the little airplane. Woo! Say, Tim is on with Zack. Tim is on with Zack. Let's go. Hey. Oh, my God. Had to let down my God. We're about to start in about 30 seconds, guys. We're not going to elongate this intro. Shots from the 3-point line. Woo! Okay. Oh. Hey. Out of nowhere. Come on. Why? It's because you give me those good old vibrations. Come on. On the same frequency. These glasses are too small. Oh, we got Zack in the back. Oh, man, it's cool in the studio, baby. Let's go. Vibrations. If you know somebody that needs good vibes, good vibrations on this Tuesday, please let them know. We're about to start the show. Let's go. Let's go. Here we go. All right. We're coming on the down. Let's go. Let's go. You had all the time in the world. The show is about to start. Let's go. Boom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the next episode. What episode are we on? 1, 2, 3. Episode 3 of season 5 of the Late Afternoon Show. And we are talking to today. Man, I call myself Mr. Meaningful Work, but there's folks that have been doing this work in a meaningful way, deeply. That's what I aspire to, is to have deep understanding versus a broad general approach to things, deep understanding. And there is probably nobody else that has a deep of an understanding of meaningful work and purposeful leadership than my man, Dr. Zack today. Now, I'm very, very conscious about pronouncing last names. You can see my last name. I've been O'Leary, O'Laire, Olarore, like it's all the way. So his last name is spelled Mercurio. I'm going to attempt it, and then he's going to let me know when he comes on. So Zack Mercurio. That's how I'm saying it. Mercurio. Now he's going to correct me and let me know if I'm right or wrong. But guys, we are talking about meaningful work with a researcher, with a writer, with a speaker, with a professor. This guy has been doing this work. He's written books. He's taught classes. He is part of I'm forgetting the name. The institute and in University of, look, I'm gonna pull it up. I had it pull it up here. We'll have him let us know when he comes on. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please, if you have questions about the application of meaningful work as an employee, as a leader, as an organization, in your own personal experience, please put them in the chat. Please put them in the chat so that we can make sure that the doc is in the house. Will let us know how we can address those. So we're going to have our stage get ready. Stage, are you ready? Where they at? Oh, there they are. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the stage none other than Mr. Zack. Yes, quiet down. Settle down.
Yeah, I know. This is the biggest applause I think I've ever gotten here. It's amazing. These people are great.
Applause and cheer. I mean, they're the best audience ever. They come when you need them, they leave when you need them. It's the best.
They're well trained.
Zack, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great. Can't complain.
That is good. This has been a long time coming. Zack, we've had a couple conversations over Zoom, on the phone, and you've been gracious enough to share your experience, your knowledge, and some of the things that what you're doing and what I'm doing intersect. But I mean, you have really been an impactful force in this meaningful workspace, this purpose leader space. And I just want to start off by saying thank you for the identity, the brand that you've created for me to look up to, first of all, and then obviously for the listeners and the viewers and the students and things like that. And I'm so excited we can talk. So that's just my gratitude, throwing it out there for you, man.
Well, thank you. I mean, I didn't do the branding too well since I didn't get that domain, Mr. Meaningful Work, when I researched meaningfulness, right? I mean, you got it.
I got it. Meaningful work meaningful. Like,
what am I going to say? What am I not going to connect with someone named Mr. Meaningful Work when I study meaningful work?
Yeah.
So
it just makes sense. It's perfect. It just makes sense. Absolutely. Well, dude, thank you so much. And so what I'd normally do in lieu of reading off a bio and an intro, we included some of it in the promo stuff for today's show, is I like to ask my guests, what are you famous for? And you can answer this any way. You can answer from a professional standpoint, from your friends and family. When people hear Zack, it's like, oh, Zack's the guy that eats a lot of tacos, or, whatever it is. What would you say you are famous for, man?
Well, I had a student write on an evaluation of a course that I teach in positive organizational psychology 2 years ago. And the evaluation comment was, must we make meaning of expletive everything?
Please, but tell us how you really feel, right?
And that's, I would say, what I'm famous for is that I can't let things lie.
Yeah.
I like extracting all of the different nuances of situations, of people. There's always a deeper reason for which something is being done, is created, for which something exists. And I'm relentlessly philosophical. And I own it, and I get that all the time. So I'm famous for relentless philosophy.
Relentless. So I'm sure like Thanksgiving conversations, dinner conversations are ones that are folks normally excited to engage?
I mean, I am excited. I mean, I get excited about meaningfulness, right? We're going to talk about this, but it's right where you are. It's everywhere. You don't go out and get it. You make it where you are.
Yeah.
You can't not make it. Even if you say my life is meaningless, your brain thinks it's meaningful. It's making meaning right now where you are. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
It's not a trend.
Yeah.
It's basically inherently human. And so when you unpack that with people, it's usually exciting.
Yeah.
At least for me.
As long as one of us is excited. If you and me were having this conversation, like, again, I think the first few quick chats that we're supposed to have, I was like, yo, dude, we can do the podcast right here, now.
Let's do it.
Just based on the combos we were having. But before we get into all of that, Zack, tell us your origin story, man. How did you become this writer, this researcher, this author in this? Like, did you as a kid say, you know what? When I grow up, I want to be a meaningful work philosopher. Like, was that what? Was that what was going on in little Zach's mind? Or talk to us a little bit about your origin story, man.
Little Zack was out on a bicycle, a Huffy bike, and had it wrapped in tinfoil and was out in the middle of a thunderstorm. His mom was screaming at him to get back in because I wanted to be a meteorologist.
So you're like chasing storms.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? I had a lot of time to do that. I'm the youngest of 3 brothers.
Oh,
when you're the youngest, you get really good at entertaining yourself, hence the tinfoil storm chaser, and comparing yourself. Like, am I good enough? Am I like them, my older brothers who are very successful, awesome guys? But it was always that comparison. And, I was generally always searching for significance. I am who my 5-year-old self needed now. Usually what happens on that purpose journey, but right. And, I see my purpose now as helping people realize their own significance. I do that through my research and what I'm doing, but it's almost speaking to this 5-year-old kid who was trying to search for significance. And the problem was that the world, right, is very enticing. For signals for significance. So when I wasn't feeling it, I started friend groups. I was friends with everybody. I tried every sport. I thought I could get it through success. And then I got into college. And I was very susceptible to that. If you major in this, you'll get this starting salary, right? Most human beings, especially in the West, are educated for success. For what society thinks should be successful. So
exactly.
I remember it was a career day and someone came in, she had a nice watch on and she was in advertising. And that's how I picked my major. I was like, wouldn't it look cool if I was in advertising? Can you imagine if I was at a happy hour?
Swagged out.
I'm at a happy hour in DC meeting my future life partner and they do, what do you do? And I say, I'm in advertising. That's how most people pick their life's past, by the idea of it, how it will look for others. I was there, man, and I was miserable. Right? Why? Because, and this is what happens, we educate people the opposite of good design. Form follows function. You would never build a building without understanding its function first, but we educate people in the reverse. Go find your career path, form your life without understanding why you're there. Your function. The result is always tension. Always. And so that tension I felt within me, right? And I'll tell you, I write about this story. It's the only cool story I have about an origin story, but I had one conversation. I was out on this lunch break. I was working in advertising. I just felt like all we cared about was money and results and not people. And I went out and I met this cab driver who was outside of the airport in Washington, D.C. He gets out of his cab. He asks me how I'm doing. I say, is it almost the weekend yet? Right. It was Tuesday at the time. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely ridiculous that we've accepted as a society that it is okay, somehow healthy, to live for 2/7 of your life, the days that begin with the letter S. It's mind-boggling that somehow that's become normal. And I said that. I got into that. Is it almost the weekend yet? And I said, yeah, it's all right. And I asked him how he was doing, and he lit up. I mean, he was just authentically joyful. And he said, oh, it's great, man. I just picked up so-and-so from the airport. I'm people's friends they don't talk to anymore. I'm people's parents they miss. He goes, when someone comes here from another country, I'm the United States to them. He's like, I love it. He got back in his cab. He smiled. He drove away. And I'm like, I want to be a cab driver really bad. Right. I mean, this is it.
Yes.
But it wasn't that. It was that he did not talk about what he did. He talked about why he did it. He talked about the contribution he made. Now, if I were to ask him, hey, do you feel like you were born to be a cab driver? He probably would have been like, no. But if I asked him, do you find meaningfulness in being a cab driver? He would probably say, yes, of course.
Yeah.
And since that moment, I quit my job and I've become obsessed with how we develop that perspective.
Yo, I love those catalyst stories, right? That thing that makes you have that perspective shift and then determines the sequence of your life kind of after that. And it's your response to those kind of catalyst moments. It was a similar thing for me as well. Like this whole Mr. Meaningful Work journey came at a time where moved up from LA to Sacramento. And, I'm always jumping into a bunch of different projects and different hustles and things like that. And it was negatively affecting the bank and the time with the family. And, new city, new job. I was like, you know what? As opposed to trying to get into another side hustle or another little thing, even with a full-time job, I was like, I'm just going to sit like, why am I always distracted? What can I focus on? What is meaningful for me? And I'm just going to make that pursuit the hustle, the brand.
Yeah.
And I'll take on the name Mr. Meaningful Works from it was purely from accountability. Like if somebody was to see me or see my brand, I would be forced to articulate, what it is that I'm doing and what it is I'm trying to figure out. And it's just been a beautiful journey ever since. But something that I am curious about, because you talked about the man that you are today is the man that your 5-year-old self needed, back then, that search for significance. I'm a dad, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have parents, or obviously everybody has been a kid, or they have parents and go through that similar thing. Is there anything that we can do or folks can do to help in that discovery of significance for kids at a young age, so that they don't have to wait X amount of years and discover it in their adult years, but they can experience that much younger?
Yeah. And I mean, my parents were amazing in the sense that they supported every decision I made, including to quit that job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the support of the pursuit and the questioning is something that I think is amazing. Supporting uncertainty.
Yeah. Supporting uncertainty.
Yeah. It's because it's, as parents, as caretakers of anybody, even if you're not a parent, the number one thing we want for people, right? We want security.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we misplace that security. We think that security is getting a good job, getting a good career. But the problem is, as you've probably found in the last year and a half, is that when you hinge your identity on what you do or what you get for what you do, when those things are gone, now what?
Yeah.
Right? It's a very tenuous existence to either parent people, advise people, or you yourself hinge your identity on what you do or what you get for what you do, because it will fail.
Yeah.
Period.
True.
So when you think, well, what's the other alternative? It's how one uniquely contributes. Every day, no matter who you are, where you are, every day brings one thing in common to everybody listening. You have the opportunity to contribute to someone else's life today. And when we think about kids, especially, right, they're taught generally, here's what you need to do. You'll be valuable if you go and get this degree, if you get these grades. We judge them by arbitrary letters that don't mean anything. And we set them up with this if-then argument. If you get into college, then you'll be successful. If you graduate college and get a job, then you'll be successful. If you get a promotion, then you'll be successful. The problem is the then always comes. And then what? Purpose and meaningfulness and mattering fill that then what? So one of the things that you can do is show people the evidence of their significance now. So what I mean by that is, instead of asking your kid, oh, what did you do in school today? Ask them, who did you help today? Who helped you today? Hey, what kinds of problems do you like solving at school? What do people come to you for at school? When you're playing on recess, what do your friends come to you and ask you to do? What are you proud of?
I love that.
Just those questions, right? Because the questions we ask, especially young people, determine what young people pay attention to. And so if we're asking questions that we're directing people's attention towards that they will matter only when they have a 5-year career plan in the future that doesn't exist, we're actually robbing them of the very uniqueness they need to accomplish whatever they're going to accomplish.
Wow.
And so ask better questions. Is
ask
number
better
one.
Questions. Well, so say said, show them the evidence
of their significance.
Today or now.
Right now. Notice people, right? I mean, my son, he's 7 years old, and he's starting to disengage into his tablet land. He loves watching his tablet, right? And I would start and I'd say, hey, no, we're not watching the tablet. Don't watch the tablet. Put it away, right? And what does that do? Nothing. I mean, it makes him feel like, okay, my desire to watch this tablet is sort of invalid to you. So what I started doing when I started reading some more research on the power of noticing and seeing somebody really for who they are right now, I went down to him. He was watching his tablet, and I let him watch it. I went down and I sat next to him and I said, hey, what show are you watching? And he told me, and I said, "Oh, what do you like about it? Tell me, what are the characters doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And you know what happened to him? He started shutting his tablet and talking to me. Like, it's
Wow.
right.
Because
And
you
try
notice
that,
it, like you're
right?
engaging
Because
with them.
you're seeing somebody.
Yeah.
You're remembering a personal detail about them. You're asking them questions about what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
You're not just telling them to comply with my order and
Mm.
move on, right?
Mm.
And when people feel seen, I mean, when people feel seen, they feel committed, right? When people
Yeah.
feel replaceable, they act replaceable. It's what we're seeing
Mm.
in the Great Resignation. When people
Yeah.
feel irreplaceable, they act irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So you got to make people feel seen, make them feel needed. How do they contribute to your family environment, your classroom right now?
Yeah.
And gosh, that's
Mm.
where you start cultivating function, understanding someone's function in the world, their purpose, before you start telling them what their resume should look like.
Mm. Man, folks that are watching this, these are gems, ladies and gentlemen, gems. I'm literally about to use this when I see the kids, because the normal question after school when we pick them up, how was your day, and it's just good. What did you do? Play, learn, versus actually getting into it and helping them see where they thrive, where what parts of the school or what parts of their friends or their interactions really resonate with them, what gave them energy, what drained energy, and how do we focus around that. So these are very practical tips.
Yeah, and it all comes out of me asking lousy questions out of a parent. As a
Yeah.
parent, I would do that too. It was like, what did you do today? Well, think about the end outcome of whatever question you ask.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a list of stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Versus
Yeah.
who did you help today and who
Yeah.
helped you today?
Yeah.
And now I know I'm bouncing around here
Yeah.
in this little box, right?
Yeah.
But the questions we ask ourselves direct our attention to. So, like, it's a very good lesson. Anytime you're thinking about leading others, you're also actually thinking about leading yourself.
True.
Because,
True.
or parenting or anything. Because,
Yeah.
if you ask yourself, what do I have to do today? You're going to just find the day a burden.
Yeah.
If you ask yourself, how is what I'm going to do today going to impact other people? You'll find the day as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you will act accordingly. If you think, how can I get through this meeting? You'll figure out how you can trudge through this meeting. If you ask yourself, who is in this meeting?
Yeah.
As unique human beings that are as irreplaceable and living as vivid and complex lives as me, who's here? It's, who am I being in this meeting? Right? I mean, so these little shifts, and that's what we find that people who experience high levels of meaningfulness do. It's not about what they're doing. It's about how they do what they're doing.
Yeah.
How they think about what they're doing.
Man, dude, it adds so much color and depth to each experience, as opposed to it just being a black and white objective, get it in, get it out, get it done. You add hues, you add, can't think of the word, but you add a level of complexity and depth in there that just makes it all the more enriching, because you're not just thinking about the 90-minute meeting or 45-minute meeting or 30-minute meeting. You're thinking about the person and all of the, what emotions do they bring to the meeting, right? What are their goals, right? What are their listening or communication styles? How is this going to And so now it just went from, we got 30 minutes to make a decision or whatever, to, man, at the end of this, somebody's going to feel heard, seen, their life enhanced, and woo-wee. And that's
when you when you get a telemarketing call, you'll be a lot nicer after you realize this. Everybody is a human living a life as irreplaceably unique as yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Step one to uncovering meaningfulness, wherever you are, right? And obviously, I don't do that all the time.
Yeah.
Right. But I do know, once you know something, you can't unknow it. I know the FedEx driver has people who rely on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know he has a last name.
Yeah.
I know he likes certain food. And then once you start really seeing human beings like that, any work can be meaningful.
Yeah.
And even the tasks, right? Tasks that we do, instead of oh, why do I have to do this? Or Tim made me do this. Ask, how is this task going to impact another human being? What would happen to another human being if I did not do it? Right? Even if it's that boss that you're getting something into that wouldn't stress him out, he is still a human being living, or she is still a human being living a life as vivid and complex as your own, who's spending 35% of their life being impacted by you.
Yeah.
And if you can, like my grandfather says, improve that moment, then that's meaningful.
Man, it's an entire perspective shift. And I definitely want to talk more about the impact on leaders and organizations, and a little bit about your book, The Invisible Leader. But a quick little fun segue. I like asking this question because it usually leads to a good time. So if you can think in the last week, or if it stretches beyond that, what is the last thing that made you laugh until your stomach hurt?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a couple. I don't know if I can say the one on here. So I'm not going to do that one. Oh gosh, but it's my kids. I mean, I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And I mean, the questions that they ask are unbelievably just great, hilarious.
7-year-old, and what was the other one's age?
4.
4.
Yeah, and the 4-year-old, right, is just trying to make sense of the world, right? And I did go into my 4-year-old's classroom about a week ago, and I went in, and his friend came up and said, "Excuse me, are you Jackson's daddy?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Jackson said your hair blew away in the wind." I don't know if that's what happened to your hair, Tim, but I was dying laughing, right? And some people would not laugh at that, but I was just laughing. I just love right? I mean, it's making meaning out of something. Why does this guy have no hair when we all have hair? Well, it must have blown away with the wind.
That's the only reasonable. I had a little girl. I had a very similar situation. I was at church, and like in the back, like the kids' mother's room or whatever, like where the little babies are at. And so there's this little girl. And so I'm like sitting in there, like on my phone, not paying attention. So my head is down, and the little girl comes over. She was like, "Tim, you have a haircut in the top of your head." Like,
that's it, man. I mean, kids, especially like 4-year-olds, they're like built-in stand-up comedians. I mean, it's just amazing.
Oh man, I think I laughed so hard like it scared her, because I just like burst out. Like, how does that even register that somebody just took a barber and just cut this little piece right here? Oh man, that's good. Gotta love it. Kids bring so much meaning to life. I love it.
Yeah, they add context to it, right?
Yeah.
See, I can't not make meaning of things, but they add context to it, right? Before it's just this bald guy, right? It's let's add context. Let's add the story. Let's imagine the story.
Yeah.
But that is what, like, we're inherently, as human beings, we're wired with that seeking system, right? To find out what's happening, to make up stories.
Yeah.
Like, we're wired to experience meaningfulness.
Yeah.
I think actually it's a good example, good segue, because if you want to see proof of this, spend a second around a toddler.
Yeah. They will find. Yeah. They will find it. So your book, The Invisible Leader. First of all, how was that experience in writing? Like, just the tactical experience in writing a book. How was that for you?
It's hard because I'm impatient, and when I have an idea, I want it to like manifest tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it took like 2 years. And a couple of things that I learned from that, and then also doing research when I was finishing my dissertation for my PhD, was that great things are products of very small, mundane moments. Doing the research, writing a sentence, rewriting a sentence, sitting down for an hour a day writing. And then you look back and you're like, oh, that was a chapter.
Yeah.
And then you write again for a few months, and you go into this despair. I'm not doing enough. I don't know who I am. Why am I doing this? I don't have anything to offer. And then you have 2 chapters.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have 3 chapters, but it's an amazing thing. And it doesn't have to be a book, but I think any anything that you can really work on with no immediate reward is
Yeah.
really good for the soul
Yeah.
in the long
Yeah.
run, because it makes you literally prize you away from your ego.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah.
what I learned through doing that, and through some of the bigger projects that I work on.
Yeah.
I'm working on a really slow research project right now. It's taking me like 2 years, and just making little progress.
Yeah.
You know, that you have to find meaning in that.
Man, again, like, I think the value of having people like you to look up to is that you can learn from the experience, something that they've done in the past that you're experiencing real time, and just find encouragement. Because I'm in that right now with the idea of writing a book and
Right.
doing a course and all these different things. And originally I set out, I think I engaged with the book person in like October of last year, and with the assumption that I would have it in or ready by spring of this year. And and I don't know who I was racing or who I'm racing, to get this out, but I'm learning as I'm going through, and we built the outline, and it took weeks to get to the outline, like just the skeleton. And after the outline, because like, all right, now how do we kind of fill in the architecture of each chapter, and what are the stories and the anecdotes and the research and all that stuff? Are you going to make this an introductory book, or is this going to be a comprehensive, or this and this? And I'm like, I know. This is high. And so now I'm like in that zone of like, okay, you know what, Tim? Just take the time. Like, nobody writes. I mean, you could, but like, nobody writes a book in like 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. Like, it's the result or the product of experience, of research, of study, of time. And you just have to allow for that time and learn from what you're learning, in that season or in that time. So,
I mean, I think it's a great lesson. I mean, it's a lesson that I'm learning, right? I mean, I'm still learning it. Yeah. I've had the idea for my next book. I should have been writing 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. But so Stephen Pressfield, if you've read The War of Art, it's an exceptional book. And he calls the little friction that every day sort of sets you back as the resistance. And that's the biggest, is overcoming our own resistance to do the work.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it like that. But the other, the other piece of it is that there are no shortcuts.
Yeah. No. Nope.
So if you're working on something that's important, and I tell my first grader this now all the time, there are no shortcuts. And if you keep taking shortcuts, you'll just keep feeling like, oh man, what am I doing? You won't feel good about what you're doing. So I like the approach you're taking.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to get better at doing the hard things and just being patient and doing the little things. And so thanks for sharing that. So, and so you talk a lot about the role, switching kind of from meaningfulness and meaningful work to purpose, and specifically around leadership and purpose. If you were to give us kind of one key learning, or maybe one or two key learnings that you've been finding in how leaders can identify purpose for themselves, but also within their teams, and the benefits that has, I think we can learn a lot from that.
Yeah. So let me just unpack these terms really quick. Meaningfulness is an outcome of when we make meaning as something as positive, purposeful, and significant. So like if you're walking along the beach and you pick up a shell, you look at the shell, you feel the shell, you're making meaning out of the shell. But if the shell reminds you of a vacation you took with your kids, the shell is meaningful now, right? A key input into meaningfulness, into meaning that is made into meaningfulness, is purpose. And purpose is our contribution. It's how our unique gifts make a unique impact. And there's your purpose and the purpose. So there's your purpose. This is how my unique gifts make a unique impact. And there's the purpose. This is the unique impact on whatever it is that I'm doing. People who are purposeful, and I like using that term because purpose isn't out there usually somewhere to be found. It's usually right where you are, waiting to be acknowledged.
Yeah.
And purposeful people are contribution centered in what they're doing. Whereas, I mean, you can have purpose and not be purposeful. You can know your why or have your big purpose statement, but not approach your day from a contribution centered standpoint. So being purposeful is so important to uncovering purpose. And so what I typically do when I'm working with leaders is I say, how can you first discern the purpose that is right in front of you right now? And like one of my favorite exercises is around purposeful job design, right?
Yeah.
So think about what you're doing, anything, and ask yourself these three questions. How is what I'm doing impacting other human beings, and how? How is what I'm doing right now making something else possible, and what is that? And then how can I use my strengths to do this meaningful work, right? Those three elements are what we find in the research to be key predictors of meaningfulness. But it's being purposeful. It's a purposeful mindset. So significance of a task, the identity of a task, how does it make something else possible, and how can I use my strengths to do it? Now, ironically, once you start developing that, you can then go to your team. Those are the three elements of any meaningful task as well. So when you're delegating, instead of showing people what to do and how to do it, show them why it matters first, right? When you're affirming people, instead of telling people good job, show them the difference that they make.
Yeah.
Remind them of their strengths, tell them what the impact was. Do that impact story collecting and storytelling, right? We know that one story from the beneficiary of a work can increase motivation and productivity upwards of 400%. And that's through studies from Adam Grant at the Wharton School.
Yeah.
So the key is, the first step is to learn how to be purposeful, right? Ask better questions, see your contribution where you are. Think about what you're currently doing. For your team, making sure they see their work as purposeful through those things, right? Purposeful delegation, showing people the difference that they make, making sure there's a clear line of sight between people's tasks and the bigger outcome of the work.
Right.
Because the biggest enemy to meaningfulness is inertia. When we show up every day and we do the same thing over and over again without evidence of its impact. And what happens is we get a split between what we're doing and why we're doing it over time. Purposeful leaders and purposeful people make sure the outcome, the impact of the work is tightly coupled with the work.
Yeah.
Like it's like almost, being a fish in water. I think David Foster Wallace, right, said like, this is water. He had a great piece on this, but purposeful leaders remind people, this is water. This is our impact. Yeah. And make that real. So that's my advice, is to start with being purposeful.
And that answered the question before I even had it. Because initially when I started this journey and I was asked both externally and internally, it's like, okay, who are you talking to? Right. So who is this for? And I had broken it down into 3 categories, like, because I didn't know, like, I'm doing it for myself. Like, I don't know who I'm talking to, whoever listens, I guess. But it's like leaders that are looking to create an environment of meaningfulness for their team at a very super high level. Those team members themselves that are, taking ownership of what aspects of what I do can I find meaningfulness, from, and how can I increase that level based on these themes or principles that we had built out over the last, couple years. And then finally, folks that haven't even entered into the workforce yet. So call it college students or first career folks that are looking and saying, okay, what role or job can I align with that will, that I will experience meaningfulness? And so my question was going to be, but now I'm kind of answering it, do those 3 things apply, right? As far as how does what I do help somebody, right? What was the second one? How does it make something better?
Yeah. And then, how does it help somebody's significance? How is what I'm doing? What does it make possible? What's the bigger whole? What's the bigger product?
Yeah.
And the third one is, how can I use my strengths more to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that cleanly applies to those 3 categories?
Yeah. I think it does.
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful way of looking at it too. And we just actually wrapped up a study of over 1,200 US employees. And what we were trying to figure out is what experiences with leadership actually predicted meaningful work. So actually associated with meaningful work. I haven't really talked about this yet, but that was the 2-year thing that we've been working on.
Yeah.
And there were 6 major areas that correlated very strongly with meaningful work.
Yeah.
And the first was, and the highest was impact, right? Does my leader show me how the tasks I'm doing today impact other beneficiaries, other human beings?
Yeah.
And is that clear? Is it routine?
Yeah.
Or do I regularly hear that?
Yeah.
The second most powerful was potential. Does my leader invest in my unique gifts, my unique strengths, right?
Yeah.
And show me my potential.
Yeah.
The third was connection. Does my leader connect with me on a personal basis?
Yeah.
Do they know things about my personal life, and do they create opportunity for relationships with others?
Yeah.
And then how people start in organizations is important, right? Starting that early. Beginnings is the fourth one, right?
Yeah.
Early and often, and making sure that we're doing that regularly.
Yeah.
And then as we look deeper, we get at this idea of freedom, right? Do I have autonomy?
Yes.
Freedom to make mistakes without fear of failure, right?
Yeah.
Freedom to experiment, freedom to do my work.
Yeah.
How,
where, with who.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when those things come together, like impact, potential, freedom, connections, it's incredibly powerful. And so we can make work meaningful. What's powerful about this study is that we found that leaders can actually be a key ingredient in facilitating meaningful work.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Man. You know what? Like what gives me goosebumps oftentimes is how some of the things that I found by accident, by way of, I'm calling it the meaningful work matrix, which has these 4 pillars of permission, people, perfection, purpose, which I just, in talking to a bunch of people and research and in looking, and it's like, oh, these look like the themes. But in talking with folks like you, like practitioners in the field or leaders that are just sharing anecdotally how they would define every single time I ask the question, how would you define meaningful work, or what does that look like to you? How things just fit so snugly, like in these things, to show that it's like, this is a thing. Like, this is a move that folks are, trying to get to, or a state or a level that folks are trying to get to. And folks are really starting to see the significance and the impact, like fiscal impact, right? That it has on the business.
When leaders do these 6 things, I mean, we find that a person in this large sample is almost 48% more likely to experience meaningfulness.
Whew.
And the 6th one that I didn't list there was integrity. So your character matters. So the authenticity of these things matter. If you're just out there saying, I want your work to be meaningful, but then your actions don't back it up, that can actually erode meaningfulness.
Wow.
So making sure your actions align with your words are powerful. That's why you have to be able to discern meaningfulness in the work you're trying to get others to experience as meaningful.
Yes.
And you can't do it just to improve retention.
That was going to be the next thing. I saw your post on that because I was in this whole course thing. I was like, okay, what are the outcomes what are the pain points that we can talk about? I was like, we can talk about voluntary resignation, folks that are leaving or folks that are staying and are actively disengaged. And, this experience of meaningfulness and, these principles would help with that. And then it's probably like the day after or 2 days later, you posted, you're like, don't use
really dangerous. Those things can be byproducts and outcomes.
Yeah.
But the moment you see a human as a means to some self-serving ends is the moment they cease to become human to you.
Yeah.
And the key,
you're not seeing them anymore.
You're not, right? They become a means, right?
Yeah.
Leaders who really create meaningfulness see human beings as worthy ends in themselves.
Yeah.
people say that, like, people ask me a lot, Zach, how do I combat the great resignation? How do I get people to stay? Right? I get it. But would you ever go to your friend and be like, what can I do to make sure you're still friends with me? Here, I'll make you dinner if you stay with me as a friend.
Yeah. Seems super selfish and shallow.
Can you imagine if your friend did that? Hey, how can I make sure you're friends with me for the next year? Right? That's like when employers go to people and be like, how can we get you to stay? I mean, come on. You would, if someone did that to you or you saw through that, you'd be like, are you serious?
Yeah.
That's the Great Resignation, right? I mean, the Great Resignation is not this phenomenon that was unpredictable. It's a demand for dignity that comes when the market is good and people have choices. People are not willing to give up their humanity to you for an extra $1 on the hour anymore. They're just not.
No.
And they're going to see through if you're trying to make work meaningful for them so that they'll stay.
Yeah.
No, make work meaningful for them because they're human beings.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like,
and because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. Like, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just care. Like, just care. Like, literally, like, that's when you care and it is evident, it's palpable, you can see it without you having to say, hey, I'm caring. Hey, I'm caring. Right. Like, it's like, nah, they're just, you're doing it and it's felt and it's authentic and that translates. Man, we can go on and on. We're already like my little.
I think this is really important, though, because, and I think it's important on a number of levels that we treat humans as worthy ends in themselves.
Yes.
Because no matter where you are, no matter if you're a leader or you're whoever, I mean, if we can consistently treat people as transactions, then we'll consistently be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll consistently be trying to get something more. And this is, I think, really a big problem that we found ourselves in, is that I think a lot of leaders of a lot of companies right now don't know how to see people as people. Like, you can't even have the conversation without detaching from how will this improve retention, Zach? So one of the things I ask people, though, that are like that, I say, think of a young person in your life. You know, it doesn't have to be your kid. If you don't have kids, it can be someone you really care about, younger. A young person, how would you want them to feel in the place where they spend over a third of their life that they're awake for? And even the most skeptical leader will start listing off the things that make work meaningful.
Yeah. It's natural. Like, it's
okay.
It's hardwired.
Yeah. Let's do that then. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't you doing that for the 30,000 people you oversee?
Yeah.
And that's the question. I mean, if we want to really make change here, we have to humanize the leader we're talking to. That they care about somebody in their life, create an environment for that person.
Yeah. It's all the way around. It's all the way around.
Yeah.
You see everyone. I think that's going to be the theme. We normally do like a little write-up the day after the show airs. And that's probably going to be the headline of, treating humans as ends in themselves. And then all the juice that follows, all the sauce and gems that follow. But guys, that is the bottom of our time. If you have learned something today, actually, before we do that, Zach, what's the best way for folks to engage with you? How can our folks help you, support you, follow you? Like, what is something that folks can do to connect with you?
Yeah, you can explore my website, ZachMercurio.com. Check out the book. I'm going to be restarting my monthly newsletter that I took a break from, and that's okay, Tim.
Yeah.
I took a break from it last year. I like LinkedIn. So connect with me there. There's a really cool group of people that engage surprisingly in some of the things I say.
Absolutely.
And come and hang out and, disagree. And it can be really fun when you got people of all different occupations talking about meaningfulness.
Absolutely. I think that's part of I was searching the hashtag meaningful work, and it was just like Zack.
That's so funny. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's the using these platforms just to have the conversation.
Yeah.
It's fun for me. So
absolutely. So yes, please engage with Zack. Check out his website. Check him out on LinkedIn. He's also on Instagram. Puts posts out there, little snippets of some of the conversations and trainings that he's having, and it is always high value. So one of the things that I love that you do, Zach, and I don't see enough folks doing this, is you post the same thing twice. Like you post like in one color and then like the next slide is the same thing.
Right.
I absolutely love that. It's like,
good. Yeah, if they don't like the blue, they can have the white.
Again.
Yeah. Swipe it, read it again, save it as a different color.
Bookmark it. Like it is one of those things. So it's those little things, folks, those little things that help hardwire those.
Well, it just came out of like, oh, I would use this graphic, but I don't really like the color. Yeah. And then I swipe over and it was someone else who did it. And I was like, ooh, I like this one though.
Yeah. Just these both of them. Yeah. This is we're living in a world where you don't have to choose. Just use them all.
Right.
So we're going to be back next week for another edition of the Late Afternoon Show. Please check us out on MrMeaningfulWork.com. We're soon going to be uploading. It's just me, folks. And so we're trying to get all of our episodes from season 3 and 4 on the website and on Spotify and on Apple Music. But you can check out season 1 and 2 on all those platforms. Just check out Mr. Meaningful Work, the Late Afternoon Show. Join our group on LinkedIn, the Meaningful Work Movement. Join our group on LinkedIn. We have some additional conversations and polls and research and things like that. And so it's a nice little group that we're building there on LinkedIn. But with all that being said, thank you so much. If you have any suggestions, any recommendations, shoot me a direct message, send me a comment, and let us keep this conversation going. Zach, thank you so much.
Of course.
This has been a fantastic conversation. Can't wait to do more, learn more on this meaningful work journey. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tim.
All right.